won't react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying age, you're in defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You didn't bust. Oh, 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 oh. You didn't bust. Oh, oh, oh,
But let us also direct attention to our common interests and the means by which those differences can be resolved. And if we cannot end now our differences, at least we can help make the world safe for diversity. For in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures. And we are all mortal.
Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Downtime. Thank you so much for joining us. And oh, white smoke. I'm delighted. I'm thrilled. I've been actually trying to look up the name. I've forgotten the name of the and I forget which pope it was. It was before Benedict. One of the popes made a secret document that said that everybody in the Catholic Church, it was their holy responsibility to resist all inquiries into child sex abuse. So they couldn't talk to the police. They couldn't talk to the, and there was a specific name for this document. I've forgotten what it was, but somebody had said that whoever they elect is going to be problematic anyway for any number of reasons. I was watching Pro Libs right before this, and he had said that one of the things I was thinking was, whoever they elect is going to be on the older side, so he was at least a cardinal probably. But when they did this order, and they all agreed to it, it was. Anyways, it may be that somebody in the live chat remembers the name of it. I don't know if you know the name of the order. It got a Latin name, so. So yeah.
Tattletales interrupt us.
Oh, you had pointed out too. Yeah, it isn't going to be long before Trump's taking credit for, it's an American Pope. Yay! That must mean that both God and the Catholic Church are fans of how Trump's been running things. Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. Apparently, he's reasonably left. So I don't. I know nothing about the guy. Do you know anything about this guy?
No, not at all. I don't. I'm not Catholic. I don't follow the stuff. I know that somebody said that shortly after he was elected and they had some interview or something, he said something that was obviously a dig at Trump and Vance. So if that's true, he's already on my good side.
Well, there was that meme going around. The Dalai Lama, sees Vance meeting with the Pope, and then the Pope dies, and then he's just like, I think I'm going to cancel my meeting with Vance.
Smart move there, Bubba.
Yeah. Stephen Walsh, $20 for the Commander Icebreaker Fund. Previst King Louis. Previst. I don't know if that's. I may be Previst. I may be reading it wrong.
Now I'm going to have to look it up.
Oh dear Lord. Apparently, too, we've reached. Starmer said a historic, and he's calling this historic only because Trump wants him to call it historic. They've reached a historic agreement with the U.S. to drop with the tariffs. I have no idea if this changes a damn thing, except I know that there is still the 10% bottom is still going to be there. 10% is not great, but it's not a huge deal in the scheme of things. So I'm curious what, if anything, the UK is getting in return. I don't think it's a good idea, but at least the tariff deal is done with the UK. They're not the EU, so it's still we're still going to have some time there. But
I think I figured it out. It's a typo. It's Prevost, which is the name of the new pope.
Oh. Thank you. You'd think I'd know that, but I also don't. I mean, I kind of like the robes and the hats. There was, I wonder if I can find, oh dear Lord, what's his name? Fry. Stephen
Fry?
Yeah, Stephen Fry.
The comedian?
Yes, the comedian. Is a... So, Stephen Fry is a very serious anti-theist. So, he and Christopher Hitchens did their debate against Desmond Tutu and someone else I've forgotten. And I'm trying to find the the exact quote. I can't find it, but he basically says, do you know if all of the things about Jesus were true, if everything that you've read about him in the Bible were true, do you know who would most feel ill at ease in the modern church, who would feel uncomfortable and want to leave the Sistine Chapel and the St. Peter's Basilica? It's that carpenter, the simple man who said that you shouldn't be rich and that you should give your money. It's like
you look at all the early Christian communities, and it really was absolute socialism.
Yeah,
and this accumulation of wealth and symbols and greatness and overawing people with everything, that was completely anathema to what was being taught back then. But of course, it's evolved.
Well, and it's doing exactly what you'd expect. Hitchens had pointed this out too, which was, okay, look, if this were divine, if the Catholic Church came from divine inspiration, what you would expect is that, everything would go along a preordained path. The book by God would be easy to read. Everybody would understand it. Not everybody would follow it, but everybody would understand and agree as to what it says. And, things would the church would develop in a way in accordance with that. Instead, what you see is, this whole system of rules that just keep getting more and more arcane as time passes, and we keep adding layer upon layer upon layer because the system exists to serve itself. To
obfuscate the truth of the whole thing.
Yeah. And it's funny because it reminds me, I saw my my kids playing, some kind of magical game out in the driveway, and they're like, I hit you with a fireball spell. Well, I do this and I do. But what was really interesting was the game was negotiated in real time, and in real time they were making up the rules, and they intuitively understood that no one of them could really beat or defeat the other, or the game would be over. But they had to do this tug of war, this pulling and tugging on the rope, and these inventing of rules that gave the play and gave the meaning substance. And it reminded me, I want to say it was Aquinas who said this, but since it was a criticism, I kind of doubt it was Aquinas who had said that basically what the priests do now is argue over how many angels could fit on the head of a pin. And the point of that was that's they have to maintain something to argue and fight over, because it can't be what the book says, because the book is reasonably clear, in as much as, charity and so on and so forth. And to wit, Bill Gates has said that he is going to divest himself of his fortune sooner than anticipated, which makes me wonder if something's wrong. But he is one of those who has said that, I forget what the name of it is, but there's a group of billionaires. He's in there. The Virgin Atlantic guy, I spaced his name, that have said that most of their money is going to the poor. The Bill Gates Foundation has now donated over $100 billion to help the world's poorest and most in need. They expect to do another $200 billion before they dissolve in 2045, I think. But he just came out and slammed Elon Musk for obvious reasons, saying that his canceling of the USAID organization is going to kill thousands of children, thousands of poor children. And I don't... He knows it. He probably doesn't
Musk,
care.
That's a good thing, because they're a drain on, the nation, to humanity, whatever. Only the rich and healthy should survive. All the rest of you need to go away because you're cluttering things up. We're the perfect beings like Musk.
Well, Titan sent me this, or Titan had said, okay, yeah, that Titan said in the live chat that only when America is in decline will there be an American Pope. And let's see, George, let me... Cardinal George of Chicago, of happy memory, was one of my greatest mentors, said, look, until America goes into political decline, there won't be an American Pope. Bishop Robert Barron, who serves on the Trump's Commission on Religious Liberty, said, said to CBS a few days ago. So, yeah, Trump does get to take credit. Trump has definitely put us in decline. I'd give him the credit. So I wanted to ask you something. We had talked about this, and
sure,
this is something I obviously know nothing about. How does a plane fall off an aircraft carrier? There's now been two of them.
The first one, my understanding, was an accident. There was a brake failure or something on a tow tractor, and it just pushed the thing off the edge. So those kind of accidents happen. You know, mechanical failure. At least it wasn't in the air when it had mechanical failure, you know.
Yeah.
The most recent one, though, the statement that was released was that they were in a high-speed turn to evade missiles being fired by the Houthis. Now, my question is, why the hell was a carrier close enough to shore that the Houthis could target it and reach it with a missile? Isn't that the whole purpose of an aircraft carrier? You have aircraft that can fly longer distances and not getting close where the other guy can shoot you? So, yeah, I don't... That one, to me, just kind of leaves me scratching my head. It's like somebody had some pretty stupid thinking if they put an aircraft carrier in that kind of dangerous situation.
Well, and to my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, aircraft carriers are actually reasonably easy to sink relative to other ships, which is why they tend to go in groups so that they have protection. No, that is not correct. All right, please. No.
I invite you and anybody else who might be interested in the topic, look for on YouTube a video, either the USS Forrestal fire or the USS Enterprise fire. Both of these aircraft carriers had serious accidents where ordnance aboard the ship was detonated, dozens of planes were destroyed, massive holes were put in the ship and everything. They were never in danger of sinking. The aircraft carrier is a large, very well built, very resilient ship. The only way it's likely to go down from one hit is if somebody puts a torpedo into it and cracks the keel, which is why carriers operate with a bevy of ships to protect them from inbound aircraft, inbound subs, what have you. So, yeah, they are not as vulnerable as the naysayers like to say. That said, I do think that, like the battleship in the lead up to World War II, their time is starting to come to an end, and we need to start thinking about what comes next. But at least for the foreseeable future, it's really, in many ways, the only way we can project power. An aircraft carrier is a power projection thing. It's for a country which is trying to influence events overseas, beyond its borders. You don't build an aircraft carrier for defense. You build it for power projection.
Well, if we need to start thinking about what's next, I have to say I can't imagine anyone better than 𝐒𝐸𝐿, because when I think
Yes,
when I
yes.
yeah when
One
I
of our
think
finest strategic minds.
but yeah, well, it's he's got a lot of time there in the new makeup room in the Pentagon to sit and think about how to modernize the U.S. military. They are going to put more money
Maybe
into them.
that's it. That's the solution. Paint the aircraft carrier to look like a clown, and no one will think to shoot at it.
Holy
Makeup
smoke!
is the answer.
Makeup is 𝐒𝐸𝐿. Maybe I will bet you, yeah. Or maybe just say that they can't fire until they turn on the cameras. Oh my God! Another Fox News host, has been nominated for what's her name? She was actually a judge, so she's got legal experience, but she has her own show on Fox, and she's now what position has she been put into? I'll look it up. I've got it, but he's drawing from.
I've given up following the clown car.
Oh
It's
God,
just
how many?
the door opens and the endless line of clowns come out.
Yeah, it's yet another Fox News.
It reminds me of when I had my job at the DoD Inspector General's office, and I like to say, before I had that job, you couldn't have convinced me there were that many crazy people in the nation. After that job, it was frightening to realize how many of those crazy people were actually in the military.
I that is one of the we've had this discussion before. That is one of the hopefully good things, which is everybody in Trump's cabinet is ambitious. Not everybody, but a lot of them are ambitious, and they seek ambition in their own ways. And so the amount of infighting, especially when you get crazy people who I don't know how to work together, especially with other crazy. Trump is the only one that he's the Pied Piper. When he's in the room, he can sort of lead them. But Rubio and Musk going at it is, I think, a great example of
Oh yeah.
And I'm surprised.
And I think that's one of the reassurances I have, is that people have been saying, "Oh, think of the tragedy we're going to endure should they Article 25, Trump out of office and Vance takes over, because he's much smarter and not as crazy." And I'm going, the trouble is, Vance hasn't got the charisma to hold that alliance together.
Yeah.
The moment Trump exits the stage, all those factions are going to fall to knife fighting each other to death.
I know a lot of people. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Marjorie Taylor Greene is gonna have the longest knife with the most blood on it.
Oh yeah,
she is a piece of work. Wow. I found, and the other thing too is she's really genuinely scary. There's a picture. You can find footage of her molesting a full-size poster of Donald Trump, and she just rubs her hand along the groin and is doing. And I'm just sitting there going like, okay, I'd be afraid to be in a room alone with someone like that. It was,
and the fact that they still reelected her, after that kind of behavior, tells you just how broken the system must be for those people. And I keep trying to point this out, and as much as we love to hate on the MAGAs and everything, for those people to have gotten to the point where they're willing to essentially destroy the country just because they feel they've been left behind so badly, that tells you there's serious problems that we absolutely have to address.
I've been trying. The amount of self-reflection I think that it takes as well, and nobody wants to do the self-reflection because it's so easy to blame the other side. But one thing that I've been trying to figure out is, how did we lead to the point where they feel so disenfranchised? And it can't possibly just be them, because it's sort of like any relationship is a give and take, and somewhere along the lines they felt.
And let's be honest, on the left we have people that feel just the same.
Yeah.
So it's the illness of late stage capitalism, I think, is the best way to put it.
Ooh. So the only ones who are being heard and pushing the buttons are the uber wealthy. No, Elon Musk has all our best interests at heart, I'm sure of it.
Saint Elon.
Oh, God. I am curious about him leaving sooner than, because my assumption was he was there explicitly to take the blame when services started to fail, and then Trump could credibly say, well, we didn't anticipate Elon doing it this badly, when really it was exactly what they wanted, but he can blame Elon for the whole thing. But now Elon's going out the door soon. They could still probably blame him just as much. I don't know, but I was not expecting. He must really have pissed Rubio and a couple of others off more than.
Yeah, to me, it speaks volumes how quickly he fell off the stage, and how we have heard nothing about it since. So yeah, it's somewhere along the lines, people in the know, the Heritage Foundation, shadowy folks behind the throne, basically said he needs to go. Just make it happen.
I wonder, he may have to leave Tesla. It looks like they're trying to get him out. What is it, Business Insider, I think it was? No, it was the Wall Street Journal did a story saying that the board is trying to oust him. They deny that they're trying to oust him, but the Wall Street Journal is a pretty credible source, so they must be sure. But it's hard. I mean, Tesla will recover. If he stays, it's just going to take a while. It's going to take a long while.
Yeah, it'll recover, but it won't recover to the same powerhouse position it was in.
Yeah.
I mean, he had I hate to say it that way because it sounds I'm giving him credit. He doesn't deserve or get the credit, but Tesla had been in the forefront of electric vehicle design. And to be so far ahead of all their competitors, had they just managed that properly, they would have been the dominant auto manufacturer going forward into the future for not just decades, but maybe a century. And he basically just deliberately on his own destroyed that. And it's literally all his fault. The blame cannot be laid anywhere else. It's him.
Yeah.
Which leaves you going, huh? Yeah, and Titan is saying, yeah, it's because of government subsidies and investments. Yes, I agree. But regardless, he had managed, I keep saying I'm sorry, the company had managed to put themselves in a very enviable position.
Yes.
And then he, in this case, I'm using he, meaning him, Elon, pissed that opportunity away.
Yep.
I mean, it's like the early period of the automobile. Ford was so omnipresent. People were calling cars Fords. There were other car manufacturers out there, but Ford was so dominant that the word was synonymous with the item itself. And he could have had that.
Yeah.
I keep running into the same problem.
Well, yeah, they could have. Yeah, they could, and the board probably is keenly aware of he's I'm not going to get into what I think is wrong with him because it's not wise. There's something wrong with him. There's a lot wrong with him. Stephen Walsh, $2, selling Trump indulgences. Oh my God, you couldn't even be. I mean that's what the Trump meme coin is.
We
for.
need a new Martin Luther with 95 curses.
The
nail
Trump
it on the Supreme Court front door.
The Trump meme coin is just that. It's indulgences. It's buy enough of those, and if you commit insurrection, you can get out of jail free. Also from Stephen Walsh, $5. Thank you, by the way, Stephen Walsh, so much. So that's we really appreciate your support. Thank you, especially on Downtime. We appreciate it. Vote for Bordeaux in Georgia. Get Marjorie Taylor Greene out. No shit. I remember Bachmann. I remember Bachmann so well, and she wanted to do the she wanted to take she wanted to literally do a McCarthyism in Congress and go find out who was pro-America and who was anti-America in Congress. And she said that Barack Obama was ushering in the end times, that his presidency was and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool because this kind of crazy in Congress is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I've now lived it. I can tell my kids, hey, there was this congresswoman named Michelle Bachmann who was, her and Sarah Palin, who wanted to stick her finger in the dike at or stick her finger in one of the dams that have been overtopped, the levees in.
Yeah.
And I was just like, and just when I think it can't get more crazy, then Marjorie Taylor Greene shows up. And it's you don't know whether to laugh or cry. My first instinct is to laugh my ass off, and then I realize, the problem is this is real. This isn't television, and there's consequences to this. So it's not funny in the slightest. I feel like it's ableism when you laugh at it.
It's bad enough that you elect them the first time. I can write that off to you didn't realize just how batshit crazy they were. But when you re-elect them, it means they're speaking for you. They are sending the message you want when you vote for those people. And I go back to my original thesis, which is that it shows to me that the system in the United States is so broken that there are people that are at that juncture that they want to do that.
That the message they want to send is, if you're not going to listen to us, then nobody's going to get anything out of the system.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think I know I've told the story before. I actually wrote it in one of the discussion things on one of either the shills or whatever Discord channel. But when our local congressman who just retired, when he was a freshman going into Congress, he had these really big ambitions. He wanted to have some sort of bill passed, and he wanted to make sure it was a joint, both sides of the aisle. And there was legislation he knew our district needed. So he went out and he found somebody that was from a Republican district, and the guy he knew that the legislation would benefit this guy's constituency just as much as it was going to benefit ours. And he took him to lunch. He talked to him and said, I'd really like to have you sponsor this bill. And the guy said, look, I've read your bill. I agree. It's a great bill, and my people would enormously benefit from it, probably more so than yours will. But I can't do it. I was sent to Congress specifically to ensure that your party passes nothing. If I do this, my career is over before it even begins. And that's the mindset that people on the MAGA side have. They want to tear the building down and burn it. They don't really care what's put up in its place.
And for every deal that Trump makes, as long as none of those deals are with Democrats, it's Democrats who have to. There's no collaboration there. It's Democrats have to sit down and shut up as Trump makes deals with whomever he chooses with the terms that he sets. I think that's
yeah. And somebody in the I don't have my glasses. Mexigirl, I think it is. She said it's her demographic of her district, meth land. Yeah, and that's one of the indicators. It's not meth land because they're bad people. It's meth land because they've all lost any hope of anything getting better. It's an escape. The meth is an escape. It's a symptom of how bad the problem has gotten from many of these places.
all right. And I just there we go. Okay, so another $5 from Stephen Walsh. How many states are also called countries? Georgia. That I'm aware of, Georgia's the only one. Is there another state that's a country that shares a name with a country? Here's a question for the live chat. Which state?
Hawaii was an independent country at one time. Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
California.
Well, and a couple of. Let me think. I'm trying to
currently. No, I think you're right. Georgia is the only one. But if you go historical, yeah.
Yeah, if you go historical, well, then you've also got a lot of, because there's a city called Portugal in Cuba, and a few others. Here's a question, and I'll get to yeah, I think there's a city called the city of Portugal, Cuba, but yeah. So I don't know. I do know that there's a Boston, Texas, but let me ask this
Paris,
question.
Texas.
Oh, well, and yeah, okay. Well, if we want to get dirty too, there are a couple of really interesting ones that are deliberately mispronounced because, well, you don't want to get struck. California.
My favorite is there is a Des Moines here in Washington State, but many of the people here in Washington deliberately mispronounce it as Des Moines. Just so you know which one they're talking about.
Dear Lord. I will ask a question. Yeah, towns names. So let me ask a question. Which state? No Google. There's an honor system. No Googling. No looking this up. Which state has the longest name? And while you think about that, just think about it. No typing anything. Thinking about it.
Are we counting as space?
Yeah, we can count a space.
In other words, between North and Carolina, for example.
Yeah, we can count the space.
Okay.
The one that's got the longest one is so long, it's probably not going to matter. And I did want to ask you about Pakistan, but before we do that, and while everyone's thinking about, and I'll actually have to look up because I know which state it is, but I don't know the name, believe it or not. I know what people call it, but it's not the name. So it turns out that Doge, at least one Doge computer was infected with a information stealing malware. Well, we already know that a lot of credentials have been leaked.
So
I know, right? A bunch of college kids in here who presumably are tech whizzes that weren't. Oh my God!
Absolutely zero vetting.
Yeah. So on top of the fact that we know they were stealing credentials and stealing this information as well, we know that Musk was stealing this information probably to use for which organization was going to use it? I think he was seeking some of it for marketing on X, but there was some other reason why he wanted uh, uh, various Social Security information to which he is absolutely not entitled. But there is.
I'm hoping after the Trumpies are out of office that every one of those people is holed up on charges.
Yeah.
A class action prosecution, if you will.
Against the entire government.
Were you a member of Doge? Congratulations. You may be getting a free summer vacation, courtesy of Cub Fed.
I feel a little bad for some of the younger kids at Doge, and the reason is because Musk comes in and says, you want to work for the president of the United States. They're too young and stupid to know any better. They're too young and stupid to be aware that they're completely not qualified for this. It's almost for me, I mean, they're over 18, so, they can.
At some point, you can't use the I was just following orders defense, and that's what that amounts to.
Yeah.
You have to know that when you're capturing people's Social Security information, and then that information is being sold to other extra governmental figures, that's ituillegal.
Yeah. So this is Kyle 𝐒𝐤𝐜𝐡𝐨𝐥𝐚𝐬, who is a 30-something-year-old software engineer, and was given access in February to core financial management systems belonging to FEMA. As an employee of Doge, he accessed FEMA's proprietary software that managed both disaster and non-disaster funding grants, and a steady stream of credentials, other people's credentials, have been actually harvested out of this system. And so they're taking people's credentials so that they can log into other systems, and it would seem like a legit login if they're not even at that point using malware to log into or hack into somebody else's system. They're using stolen credentials to quote legitimately gain access to a system. Credentials belonging to Schultz have appeared in 51 data breaches since then, and let's see, including credentials from that was Have I Been Pwned. That was, okay, he's a hacker who was responsible for the Adobe hack and LinkedIn hack in 2020. So they think that this may be his software. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder why the UK is no longer sharing classified information with us. I mean,
I hesitate to speculate. It would be such an obscure reason. Never be able to.
None of our allies want to talk to us anymore, and this is it. We've become. We've become
we really
gossip.
are persona non grata around the globe, solely because of this thing.
Well, we can't do anything well, so nobody wants to do anything with us anymore. And Trump is like, well, let's bring back manufacturing and let's make American products good again. Well, one of our products was information, IT. One of our products was the ability to defend. And they decommissioned the entire cyber warfare unit at the Pentagon. Are you fucking shitting me? Yeah, because that's not something we're going to... I'm sure Hegseth had nothing to do, because, like I said, Hegseth is obviously a genius. Yeah, Hegseth... Well, listen, it was that or the makeup room. He needed a makeup room. The cybersecurity unit was in that room. They were using it, and he's just like, no, get everybody out, and I need a big, full, like, hallway-length mirror, and Oh dear Lord, I can't believe he's still there. Somehow he's made more screw ups than just about anybody else, and
which is why he's still there.
that's a good point. Could you expand on that?
The bigger the amount of the screw up, the more likely it is they're going to want you there so that when the shit hits the fan, you can point the finger at him and say, it's all his fault, not the Orange God King. Musk had to go because he was challenging Trump. He was on the verge of usurping his authority. That, I think, is why Trump was convinced by the Heritage Fund people that he had to go. I don't think the Heritage folks ever imagined that Trump would invite Musk in, or that Musk would do the kind of things he ended up doing. I think that took them completely blindsided, and it took them several months to get their act together to get him removed.
Well, and they don't benefit. I mean, unless they're complete accelerationists, and I don't think the Heritage Foundation is, they don't benefit from the entire system getting torn down because they want to find a way to make money. And, you know, that was the swear-engine line from Deadwood. You have to have some law, or else how else are you going to rip everybody off? So they don't want the whole system to collapse because then they lose too. But they're willing to take it about as close as they can. Musk was going too far.
Yeah. I hate to bring this up because it's not news, it's entertainment, but the show Andor, which started its second season on Disney recently, which is a Star Wars kind of spin-off, as somebody brilliantly put it, it's Star Wars for adults as opposed to all the other stuff that's come before, which has been for children. And they pointed out that one of the things you see going on, and people who don't understand the subtleties, they think the rebellion that's being formed is against the empire. In reality, it's not. It's a revolution against the remains of the republic, which is essentially the same oligarchic kind of situation we have here, that the Russians have, who are the people that are forcing everybody else into wage slavery so that they can continue living high on the hog. And it's an interesting way of viewing it if you understand how they're doing that. And I think we go back to what I said earlier about, this is late stage capitalism eating itself.
Yeah. David Milch's Deadwood.
Sorry.
It was an incredible show. They recreated the town. They used the blueprints for the original town. They built it as close to the original, and they actually built it, so there was no set. It was the town. And as the show was going on, they were building the town. And one of the reasons it got canceled was because it was so expensive. It still was making HBO a profit, but they're like, they had to keep the animals there over the winter because they couldn't just bring the animals back down. And so they had to have someone taking care of the animals. They had to have, and as many actors as there were people who were actually like in shots who were actual, equestrians and taking vets taking care of the animals and so on and so forth as they're building it.
Local residents.
Yeah. So they, but at one point early on in the show, 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴, who's for the most part, the antagonist for most of the show. He is a saloon owner, but he's got his hand in basically every criminal thing going on in the town. But it's very important to him that the town gets a sheriff. And the reason is, if there's no sheriff, nobody's going to come to the town. If everybody's killing everybody, nobody's going to come to the town, and he can't, make any money either legitimately or through his criminal endeavors. He doesn't want a sheriff who's too good. He doesn't want a sheriff that's gonna shut him down. But he needs a sheriff. And when two of his own guys go and rob a family and then kill the family, he kills those guys. And the number two says, why on earth would you kill, men that were loyal to us? He's like, because they went out and committed a robbery, and everybody thinks it was the Indians. Now everyone's terrified of Indians, and no one's going to show up. It's like, so yeah, you committed a small robbery. They gave me a percentage of the money. Hey, great. I didn't want that. I didn't want that family killed. I'm not going to rob anybody or everybody I can. I'm very selective about how I do it. And if you want to be a criminal,
I want to be in control and working to my model, not chaos where every idiot's working to his own model.
Exactly. Which is sort of what we have. So the Heritage Foundation, I don't think, wants to shut down everything because they can't profit that way. There has to be some infrastructure to keep the plebs in line. I found the article. It's 𝐒𝐤𝐜𝐴 who has a show. She's been on Fox and Friends. She also has her own show on Fox News. She is now the interim U.S. attorney. For D.C., which I think he gets to appoint the D.C. one because D.C. is not a state. So, congratulations, D.C. You have a news anchor as your new... and that may be doing her a slight disservice because she was a prosecutor and she was a judge. The judge impresses me more than a prosecutor. A lot of people have been prosecutors. It's actually not that... Being a prosecutor is usually part of the career path. It's the early part of the career path of lawyers. But it depends on what kind of prosecutor. But at any rate, she's been on Fox News for the last 20 years, and she is now the interim U.S. attorney for D.C. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, so there was, things got a little crazy as we were talking about the fighting going on between Pakistan and India, and indeed it does look like there was a dogfight between two French fighters, Pakistani, the Pakistan-owned... No, wait, I'm sorry. Pakistan had the Chinese fighters, and India had two French fighters, and the French fighters were shot down, and I guess now everybody is examining the dogfight to see... So any thoughts on that? I mean, I hear that the latest, the so-called 5th gen, or now they're coming up with 6th gen. I guess everything's going to be a new generation now. Fighters are purportedly really rather good.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on what generation the aircraft in question were. Mm-hmm. Until relatively recent, both air forces really didn't have much beyond like 3rd and a half generation aircraft. The other issue is that the Indian Air Force for a long time was using old Soviet doctrine. So if you're using a French aircraft with Soviet doctrine, then you're not taking full advantage of the Western type systems which are incorporated onto that aircraft. So that may have put them at a disadvantage. There are too many variables, and the news I've read about it, I wasn't able to read much on it today because I had PT. But the stuff that I've heard sounds like we don't have a full story yet, and I don't think it's going to be something we're going to find out all the details on, until much further downstream, because both sides are going to want to keep concealed the truth of what happened.
I have to believe India has very good intelligence on Pakistan. They hit a mosque and a hospital. We hadn't confirmed that originally, but that's since been confirmed amongst 9 different targets. Accident?
Who knows?
Okay. Well, I mean, India does look like, I mean, to me, my command of
I think
military.
you need to remember what is the genesis behind this.
Yes.
India is trying to find some way to retaliate for the terror attack that killed the 27 people.
Yes.
And so hitting a hospital and or a mosque or what have you might, in some stretch of the imagination, figure into that calculus as being an appropriate target. I'm not saying it is anyway. I'm just saying
I
that
understand. Yeah.
he who's making the ROE gets to define what constitutes a
Yes.
legitimate and a non-legitimate target.
I'm just curious because to me it feels like they're spoiling for a fight. They waited for 2 weeks, so this wasn't an immediate retaliation. They hit what appears to be civilian targets, and while the 26 people that were killed were tourists and civilians, they were not targeted by the Pakistani government or by a terrorist organization supported by the government, at least to the best of my knowledge. The organization that took credit for it is a splinter group that the Pakistani government does not support. So they're hitting Pakistan, and they
technically it's a splinter group that still maintains close ties with the 𝐒𝐲𝐜𝐴 organization. So I think it's fair to say that there was certainly at least some peripheral Pakistani ISI involvement in the operation.
Okay, that's new information.
Now, it may not have been direct. They may not have known it was happening, but the equipment or the planning or the intel or whatever went into it, some of that may have been passed through LET.
Pakistani intelligence.
Yeah. No, LET is Lashkar-e-Taliban. That's the terrorist group.
So, well, Pakistan has made it clear they're going to retaliate. I don't think India counted on losing 2 aircraft, which I assume are very expensive.
And what's interesting is that now puts India in a situation where it almost is going to feel honor bound to escalate the situation because they need to restore their Air Force's honor and show that they can still also shoot down Pakistani aircraft.
Well, and it's sort of like when you defend yourself against a retaliation, the interesting thing about when Iran fires weapons into and fires missiles into Israel, they calculate what percentage are going to get taken down by the Iron Dome system and fire an appropriate amount of missiles, not that would do a proportionate amount of damage, but that would do a proportionate amount of damage after a percentage of them have been shot down and have failed. So
right.
They calculate how much damage they want to do, and they have to fire a great deal more missiles than they otherwise would have to because there's an associated defense system that they're going to have to get through. Here, I can't believe that they intended to lose any of their aircraft, and in the retaliation did not intend to have 2 of their planes shot down. So in the retaliation, they've had even more damage done unto them, which they probably feel was unwarranted because this was a retaliatory strike. Meanwhile, Pakistan is definitely, I think, going to respond. So I would have assumed it would have happened already. It did take 2 weeks for India to respond. Any guesses as to what's going on right now or what they're thinking? Apparently they have had meetings at the national security level. Any thoughts?
I'm sure initially it was, well, how do we want to respond? What should we do? And then planning it out, and that takes time. You also need to at least have some plausible, quasi-plausible connection between the terrorist organization and Pakistan. And that takes time to put together. So I think that accounts for the 2-week delay, that combination of factors. And now, as events are unfolding, we're going to see it getting faster and faster because they already have the response and planning teams in place to figure that stuff out much faster. And both sides, it's now become headline news. So yeah, they're in a situation where the press cycle is beginning to take over the operational cycle.
Well, meanwhile, fortunately, seeing the potential for significant loss of life, the United States has stood up and said that peace is of paramount importance. Quote from Vance, quote, "It's none of our business. We're not getting involved." What? Yeah, it's none of our business. We're not getting involved. So there's American leadership at its finest. We're not.
You can lead from behind. You can lead from the front. You can lead from behind, or you can simply not get out of bed, and that's kind of what the Trump administration does.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So, you're the Heritage Foundation. You have created a plan to create a capitalist utopia in the Project 2025 blueprint. You're in the room with them, and you have helped to get Donald Trump elected, and you see what he's doing in the White House. How do you under those precise set of circumstances, which is not you, I'm aware, how do you think he's doing? What do you think the Heritage Foundation is thinking right now about the job that he's doing?
Whoever their agent is being given daily, if not hourly, instructions on how to try to guide things. But I think they realized going into this that their ability to control Trump and his lackeys was going to be somewhat limited. They have a lot of influence, but they can't shape the exact way things are going to fall out. Overall, I think they're going to be mostly satisfied with the way things are falling out. It would be my guess. But the farther they get from the baseline where they started, the more likely I think it is that they're going to want to do something to take the reins themselves, because they're seeing a lot of opportunity from their perspective, starting to slip through their fingers, because the people in charge clearly have no idea what they're doing and aren't following the guidance that they're being given.
Well, and a new world order would ostensibly have the U.S. in the middle of that order. And I do have to believe the Heritage Foundation values, for example, our intelligence sharing by other countries, and has some idea of why that's so important. And things like that are opportunities that are getting lost, even if we decide we're going to stay out of it. I think they're trying to go back to the...
Yeah, I think they're trying to go back to the model that existed pre-World War II of an isolationist America, where we don't get directly involved in world affairs and we let other people handle those issues. We're simply an open arms bazaar, and we'll sell whatever you want to whoever has got the cash to buy it. You want that F-16 in pink? We're happy to paint it pink for you. We don't care. I think that is kind of part of what they're looking for from a foreign affairs kind of thing. The reason I'm saying that is I think from their perspective, the cost of maintaining the empire was getting too expensive. We had bases in, dozens, hundreds of countries around the world. And all of that costs money. All of that is potential exposure to terrorist actions. All of that is potential exposure to incidents which embarrass us and hence embarrass their ability to sell whatever goods they're trying to sell or buy whatever resources they want to buy. So that's one of the reasons I think they want to retrench. They want to bring everything home. We'll just have a few key areas that we need to have, to protect ourselves overseas. But if it's not directly concerning us, we shouldn't be involved in their estimation.
How much is, and I think sort of final before we go, I want to delve into China a little bit, but I guess I'll do that vis-a-vis BRICS. I mean, it appears as if it's almost when the whole BRICS idea first came out, it was intriguing that we had reached a point where somebody thought that something like that was viable, but I didn't think it was particularly viable. But I think what Trump is doing is making it viable. I don't think that's necessarily
I don't think
deliberate,
BRICS itself is going to be particularly important or viable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think other organizations will be formed that will leave us out in the cold. And I think the announcement last week of the EU/Chinese trade pact that was being negotiated is an example of what I'm talking about. Because we have, through Trump's actions, done so much to alienate our former dependable trade partners that they're throwing their hands up and saying, the hell with it. I don't need to buy this. I don't need this kind of frustration. I'm going to go with the other guy. They may be politically unsavory, but they're much more predictable and dependable. And that's what economics is. It's predictability and dependability. And what we have been generating since January 20th is just the antithesis of that.
Yeah. So, if you're China, what do you do now? They've already been filling in the gap in terms of soft power. So as the U.S. goes back, China has been projecting forward, and very deliberately. In fact, they've been going as fast as they can, but they were not prepared for how far we've gone back. So they're ramping up their diplomacy, but they are pressing the gas. So they clearly have some very good idea of what's going on and what the fallout's likely to be. So if you're China, does this mean
you make hay while the sun is shining?
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on. Is they're seeing this is a glorious opportunity to allow China to step up to its proper place as a major player on the world stage. Previously, they were always, playing second fiddle to the U.S. and Russia. Russia's broken its back in Ukraine. The U.S. has now broken its own back just because it's so disoriented right now. So, you use the next 4 years and do everything you can to expand your influence, form those trade deals, get Chinese students into the universities in every country you can, and vice versa. Bring as many foreign students to Chinese universities as you can. And people don't understand how big a deal that is, because it's through those ties, even if you're not talking about the possible intelligence activities that are being going on, simply by forming relationships with people in that academic setting, you're establishing groundwork for later friendships that develop into business and scientific and academic and cultural contacts. And they're expanding it, and we're doing just the opposite. We're shutting down everything as fast as we can. So, yeah, I think if China's got half a brain cell functioning, they know this is a once in a millennium opportunity.
May, though, the only upside that I can think of, I don't know if you think this will be much of an upside, but usually that kind of thing does come with internal reforms, because in order to interface with Western culture, they have to become at least somewhat more Westernized. That's why free trade is actually a great way to level the playing field. You really want to improve, close down sweatshops in China, buy more of their goods, not less, because then demand goes up, then so on and so forth.
Yeah, and a lot of that boils down to a younger generation moving up in China to take the reins of power from the older generation. The old guard, most of them are not contemporaries of Mao anymore, or even youngsters who were around when Mao was in power, who were, but they're people who came up where that Maoist thinking was still very much in vogue. Mm-hmm. And I think if they start realizing that the times have changed and you can start doing some of that relaxation, because they already did to some extent. There was this implicit understanding amongst the new entrepreneurial class, the growing number of Chinese billionaires, that you can go out and make as much money as you want in the private sector. Just don't get involved in politics. That was the caution. The moment you cross that line, you're gone. And I think they're going to start realizing that once people acquire a certain degree of wealth and influence, you can't help but give them the seat at the table. You may want to, you're at the kids' table in the next room, but you have a seat at a table. And that's what they have to start considering, and they have to start relaxing that. Otherwise, then the pressures, and there are enormous pressures inside China today, political pressures, that if they don't do that, then the things may boil over, which is, as I've mentioned many times, I think that's where Taiwan becomes the key playing piece. Taiwan is not something China wants or needs. It is a safety valve. Anytime the central government starts taking pressure and criticism from the masses, all you have to do is wave that "we're reuniting the homeland" flag, and everybody kind of gets back in line where they're supposed to be. And if you ever actually take Taiwan, that safety valve goes away. And then what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you confront the U.S. and its allies? Do you move north against the Russians and take that big empty Siberian area? Both of those entail a huge amount of risk. So it's almost better to just keep Taiwan where it is. Let it be independent, because honestly, it's so tied up with China today economically that it really isn't an independent country. It's kind of the old medieval term, the suzerain and the vassal state.
Fiefdom.
Yeah, vassal state.
Vassal state, yeah. So,
how do I get future problem apps? That's a reference to
Fallout.
Yeah, the Fallout video game.
256 from Sinister Porpoise. How do I get future donations and bottle caps? It's not going to be long before that's what. Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yep. So I guess my last question then would be, Trump's approval ratings are pretty low. Having said that, I don't see him losing strength. He's not gaining strength. He's stopped being able to project quite as far, I think, but he's still
he's bleeding enough support among what I would call old style Republicans that his numbers are slipping, because those people are realizing what a complete imbecile he is. But the loyal MAGAs, that 25% that have joined the cult, drunk the Kool-Aid, and they're in their living rooms right now, buffing their little shrines of the golden god, they're with him for the end, all the way to the end. I don't think you're going to get them away from him.
I mean, things aren't the cuts that they've made are going to hit the general economy reasonably soon. I would have thought it would have hit sooner. It hasn't. It's like we're waiting for that shoe to drop. The Democrats came out and said that their number one goal right now is retaking the Senate. I understand why they say the Senate. The margin is so close there. Having said that, I think the House is actually far more important, because they want the Speaker for. We've discussed this Article 2, Section 3. But regardless, do you have any hope for that? And if they do that, then what?
I think the key is not whether there's going to be a groundswell of opposition to MAGA type candidates. I think that's kind of a given, considering how many people have been adversely impacted by all these new measures. I think the key question is whether or not the 26 elections are going to be free and fair. Because I suspect that they're going to do everything they can to, put in place voter ID laws, and, you can't vote by mail unless you're, white, Christian, only they can vote by mail. And all the other votes, we lost the ballot boxes. Just all sorts of BS that they will undergo. Assuming we get something that resembles a fair election, I don't think that they have a good chance of hanging on to both houses.
All right. Thank you.
Does that mean that the Democrats are going to take both? I don't know. But
I mean, if they,
I think they will get one. Go.
Well, no, I'm curious. Is impeachment a majority, or is it 2/3? You need to. It's the Senate who I don't recall if in order to impeach, if what the numbers are, and they're always talking impeachment. I don't know. I have no idea. He's been impeached twice. Nothing's happened. I'm concerned about the Article 2, but. That notwithstanding, no, impeachment's another thing. We'll say. I mean, there's now I think the second set of articles of impeachment since he's been in there, and as long as Republicans hold the House, it's not going to pass. It's not going to leave committee, so they have to capture the House anyway to even start the impeachment process and get that to a vote. They're after the Senate because the margin there is tighter, but at a minimum, if they capture one, presumably the other reason I think they should have the House is because they need those committees to start trying to defend the parts of the government that have been dismantled, and to start to try to reassert the power of the purse, which while both have it's I think Congress has more power in terms of asserting what the president can and cannot do when it comes to defunding congressionally authorized spending. But it's all hypothetical until the Democrats get there, and then we'll see if that's still a ways away. Until then, it's bottle caps. We're on bottle caps. All right. Well, thank you, Lance, once again for another show. It's been delightful hanging with you and chatting with you again. And you're going to be doing the shills tomorrow night. Is that right? Are they're doing?
No, Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Okay, because they've changed their schedule.
Oh, they did? Nobody told me.
I thought they used to do Fridays. Did they not do Fridays before? Like, I thought like a couple months ago, and I don't know.
The only one I'm regularly on with them. I mean, if they want me, I'm more than happy to join them whatever times. But the only one I'm regularly on is what is called the Ukraine update, and that's on Saturday noon my time.
All right. Well, so people, if you would like to see Commander McMillan, you can see him on the shills there. He'll also be back next week. We're going to be we're trying to bring back our regular Tuesday shows, get 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐼𝐶 back on here. We have a lot to talk about, and of course, breaking news, which I think we're going to be seeing a lot of over the next couple of weeks. Thank you all for your support. Thank you for the super chats from Stephen Walsh, multiple super chats from Stephen Walsh. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate that, and the Sinister Porpoise as always. And Mexigirl, we changed the schedule of the 42 show. That's right. Okay, so I'm not going crazy, or I may be going crazy, but it would be a separate thing. All right, so thank you for that. Any final thoughts before we head out?
Not really. I think we covered pretty much what we would usually cover in the show. I keep reminding people, as I do on the shills, continue to write letters, phone calls, texts, emails, what have you. Communicate with your elected officials and tell them what's important to you. That part of the system is still important. That's one of the reasons there are signs showing of, within the Republican ranks in Congress, things are getting shaky because they're getting a lot of pressure from their constituencies saying, if you don't undo some of this nonsense, you're out.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you all on Tuesday or the next time there's breaking news. Have a great weekend. Good night, all.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.